Welcome to Sam and Jen Got Divorced. We are glad you are joining us for another episode. Samuel's here again because, it's about Sam and Jen. But we do have a special guest here today. We have Alanna who will be chatting with us, asking us some questions about our love story, how it all began, how it all transpired, and how we got here. So let's dive on in.
Well, and like you said, how it all began. How did you guys meet?
How did we meet? So I heard about her.
I don't even remember how we met. Okay, yeah.
Before I met her. We had a bunch of mutual friends in the Toronto scene. I had one friend who always told me stories about this woman named Genevieve, who whenever they met up, they would go and party all night. And when I say party all night, I mean no drugs, hardly any alcohol, just a night of adventure, driving to Niagara Falls spontaneously. The words he used, to quote him, is, "Genevieve is a dangerous black hole."
Is a social black hole. I know who you're talking.
Yeah. And he clarified it. What he meant is, you meet Genevieve at 6 p.m. and you think you're going to be home by 9, and you're actually home at 9 a.m. the next day. So,
my love language is quality time.
Yes. And that's consistent with who she is. She loves spending time and being spontaneous. So I'd heard about this woman, but I hadn't met her. And I was speaking at a conference on like a songwriters or musicians conference or something like that. And Genevieve was there supporting one of her good friends, who was also one of my good friends at the time. And
I like how you said at the
finally,
time.
at the time, right?
Where is that friend?
That's another story for another podcast. That's a story.
That would be a good one. Okay.
Yeah, and then finally I was introduced to this lady, Genevieve, who again I'd heard about but never met.
Okay, and first impressions?
Yeah. Well, I got introduced by my bestie, and I didn't have any first impressions.
Yeah. There was, to be fair, there was other black people there, so I
there were,
Okay.
Well, you can be honest. What was the first impression?
Was that the first time I met you?
I think
was that okay? Yes, I do remember that time, and I remember you had frantic energy. I remember frantic energy. Like it felt very like you were like, oh, got to do this, got to do that. You were like busy at the time. And I remember thinking, oh, he's busy. And then I kind of just, went about my merry way because I was working as well. But yeah, it didn't.
Which is funny because when we were married, I think the comment was, why are you moving so slowly, Samuel? Let's go. Hurry up. Which is fair. Like I used to say to her, and I said, I don't like to rush things, right? Which means I get up at my own pace. I leave the house at my own pace. So.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the pace of grace.
Well, so you didn't notice him, but you noticed Genevieve.
I noticed her as a human, for sure.
Okay. How did it?
I think it was just like, oh, that's the girl. That's the girl he was talking about.
No, my thoughts were, this was an attractive woman, for sure, and friendly. She, like, I wouldn't say that I was drawn to her in a romantic sense right away, but she seemed particularly flirty towards me, and she was like, oh, how do you feel about, if you ended up with an older woman, how would that feel, right? And I was like, what's happening right now?
Yes! Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow. So yes, you thought I was thirsty. Yes. So I was actually asking for my best friend.
Okay.
Yes, because I thought, I remember that. I was like, oh, he's a nice guy. He seems kind of quirky, kind of, not my type, but quirky. Yeah. So I was like, oh, my girlfriend, it might be a thing. So I was, and she's older, obviously. Okay, so I was like, oh, how do you feel about like older women? And I was like, I'm playing matchmatchmaker, elite matchmaker here, thinking that I'm gonna help do the dues, But
I didn't know she was talking about somebody else.
Yeah, he didn't know. Yeah,
and I appreciated who she was as a human, but I there was no sparks in that direction right away.
Okay. Well, it did progress to a first date. So how was that?
The first date I think was 2.5 years later.
Okay. Yeah, it was probably about that.
So what changed for me is both of us love traveling, and Genevieve had a trip planned around the world, literally, starting in New York. I think y'all went to Paris, you went to Thailand, all these places. And India, I couldn't make the trip around the world, but whenever Genevieve travels, she often invites the people in her circles. And we had been friends for a few years at that point. We'd run in the same circles. We weren't particularly close friends. We didn't have any one-on-one time, but we were in the same groups, and everything was good. Like the rapport was great. So she invited me and some other people to come to New York, which was the first leg of the trip around the world. And when we traveled to New York together, which was only for a weekend, I loved the way that we interacted and the way we had kind of a yin and yang energy. Like I thought we complemented each other well. I thought there was times when she was more assertive and I was more quiet and laid back, and there was times that I was more assertive and she was more quiet and laid back. I thought, like, I liked the way that we functioned in one of my favorite settings, which was traveling. That was the first time I began to notice her as somebody who I might be interested in spending more time with.
Okay. And noticing him, when did you start to notice him?
Yeah, we're still waiting.
Okay.
No, I'm just joking. Yeah. I'm racking my brain, and I'm like, you know what? I think it was, we went to, it was like a conference called One Thing, and it was was it Kansas City, Oklahoma? And at that time, it was like a worship conference. At that time, I remember it was like a prophetic word or something like that. And I'm trying to remember, like, I think that's the time where I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I could like actually consider him. I think it was that time.
It wasn't before that? It wasn't on the dates when we were fostering a friendship?
Is that the right
answer? Was that what I called it?
Yeah. So there was a period of time when we began to spend more time together. And in my mind...
When was our first date? Was it the Thai place?
The Thai place.
Was it the Thai place?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then it was there. Were we going somewhere afterwards? This is all foggy in my memory. Or maybe I've just blocked it out. But...
That's fair. That's fair.
But I remember we went to the Thai place and you were like, oh, I'm having like 3 or 5 chilies or something like that. It was crazy. You were like, I'm going to have all the hot stuff. And I was like, this guy's nuts. We had a conversation at the Thai place and you asked me all these like really deep questions. Like, if your husband cheats on you, would you stay with him? Like, what? Who asks those kinds of questions, right?
On a first date.
Like, you understand? Okay. You understand? So I was like, oh my God, like, I'm on the spot here. But I do remember thinking to myself, like, your questions were quite intriguing. They were interesting. And we could have like actual conversation about, real topics. So I think that's what I was like, oh, okay, maybe, it's, maybe, perhaps, we could see.
Okay, so you must have moved from the, okay, we'll see, to the, I like this guy. I like this girl. So.
Yeah, we're still working it out.
How is that? When did you think, okay, yeah, this could be the one?
I think when we actually started talking about like life purpose and dreaming, like Samuel's very like lofty. He's a dreamer, he's a visionary, and he borders on delusion. Like, and so do I. Okay. So like, I'm like, oh my goodness, the bigness of the dreams and whatever, we could do all these things and go all these places and whatever. And I don't necessarily always look at the practical things, but Samuel's very like, he'll execute. So he'll like drag me along with him. Like, let's do it. Let's go. And I'll be like, oh my gosh. And I hardly ever feel that way. Because most of the people in my context are pretty conservative, pretty chill, whatever. So I think that was very attractive to me. And I was like willing to be swept along on this like, roller coaster ride of life and excitement, and challenge me to really like be bigger, like grow and do things that I wouldn't necessarily normally do. I can't pinpoint an exact time that happened, but I know it happened.
Yeah.
Like,
but she knows it happened. So
it happened.
Yeah.
It happened for her, and it happened for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Similarly, I liked her mix of dreamer and practicality. Like, I liked that aspect of things. There's a way of looking at things, what I would call modern definitions of masculinity and femininity, that I actually hate. That's a topic for another day, because I don't think they're accurate. I don't think they reflect actual masculinity or femininity. But what I liked about us is I felt like we occupied similar spaces, but also different spaces in a way that I really felt was complementary. I liked how she was confident and clear and had vision, but she could also follow and she could also respond. And I could say, this is where I think we should go. This is what's important to me. And she was able to come and fill that space and be a partner. But also, if I was off dreaming, which I love doing, I love stepping back and like daydreaming and zoning out, as she would call it. I love that Genevieve was able to hold that space and like can count on, I could trust to like think and make decisions. That balance is very attractive to me. I met a lot of people who were one or the other. People who were either like, oh, let me lay back, you do it, you take me, I'm going to follow. There's nothing wrong with that. As time has passed, I've even been able to embrace more of it and enjoy more of that. There's also nothing wrong with meeting a woman who has a vision, who has places she wants to go, and I can come alongside and amplify that. That's a beautiful thing to me as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're hearing a lot of how he was attracted to you and how you were just complimenting, and there's this yin and yang thing going on. And so now I'm curious, so what was doing it for you?
Right.
I'm just amused at how you've asked the same question basically 3 times
in different ways. I got it. Yeah, the jury has gone home. No, yeah, I'm
going to jump in. This was a long time ago. This was 10 years ago now. And there's been a lot of really negative and harmful and difficult times since then. Part of the healing process has been putting that side of us to bed. So I'm definitely empathetic with Genevieve's working through this and trying to open and unpack this and think, what was it that started me on this journey that caused so much pain and that I had to ultimately close a chapter on? So I'm hopeful she'll get there, but I'm empathetic to that process.
Yeah, no, I think, and I think the things are still present today. You're still the same person in a lot of ways, meaning you're still witty, you're still clever, you're still funny. Those qualities are just endearing to me. I think one of the things that I would say initially attracted me to him was his ability to have conversation. He's a wordsmith. He'll say things and make them sound really pretty, really nice. And he puts words together really well. And I think for my listening ears, that's very, tantalizing. It's oh, okay, yeah, okay. I'm I'm in it. Yeah, I'm swimming with you kind of thing. But it's still a part of who you are. So I think, yeah.
Okay. So there was the couple, and then friends and family. Were they on board with the couple?
Mm-hmm.
Depends which friends and family.
Which friends and family. My tribe is always going to support me. And so when and if I am subscribing to a thing, a person, a restaurant, whatever it is, they're going to be on board. So while they'll share their reservations, they're going to support me no matter what. And I think that's what happened with most of my friends and family anyway.
There was no significant flags. Some of them shared some small to medium concerns, but they were in. They were happy for me and for us. They felt like we were an interesting match, but a good match.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How real do we get to be here? How I'm just we haven't. Yeah.
I think the purpose of this is for us to be real. So please be real.
So it's not to be real. It's how real. What's the degree? Are we 100%? Are we 80%? Okay.
There's nothing that you can say that will bother me.
Yeah. So when I think of it from your end and your family and friends, I felt like there was a lot of celebration. There was just, oh my goodness, this is
excitement.
Great. This is wonderful. This is awesome. And I felt like I had to advocate on my side.
Okay.
I had to create a case
Yes.
for why this was a viable thing for me to do. I had to gather evidence, exhibit A,
Fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was on the defense block.
Okay.
Right. And yeah, I had to say a lot of things about him to put them at ease.
Because what did they see?
There was a lot of things. Mostly, I think when you say it was an interesting match, I think because our personalities are so different.
Okay.
And what my family and friends, who they would have seen me with before and who they thought that I should be with, didn't quite match. So they were like, okay, well, you should be with this kind of person. Someone who is perhaps more well put together, physically speaking. Someone who is more financially well off. And, we were, someone who's older, someone who's, because Samuel's younger than I am, right? They had a lot of ideas in their heads that didn't quite match with Samuel. Someone who's more, who presents as more, confident, more secure. Samuel presented as very soft-spoken, easygoing, somewhat insecure, but more like willing to, let me, be my big personality self sometimes. And I think that was off-putting for them. They were just like, no, we need you to be with somebody who can lead you, who's like forceful and adamant, alpha male, and and that wasn't Samuel's like presentation. But Samuel is he's a leader. He's quite thoughtful in the way that he does things, and so they didn't know him intimately. They hadn't had those kinds of conversations. So what they saw and what they heard just didn't align. Right. They were like, this is who you are, and you need to be with someone who's, bigger, more brighter, and all the things. And I was like, do I though? Do I? I don't know.
Okay, there are reservations, and you were still advocating.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And your family was just celebrating.
Oh my God, they thought it was wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah. For the most part, like
no
I said,
red flags.
The only small concerns is I'm very passionate about the things that I'm passionate about, and certain about the things that I'm certain about. And spiritually, I have a lot of beliefs that are not cookie cutter, that are controversial, and that can have caused me to come into conflict with other people, traditional religion even. So the only major concern is she going to be able to like ride with you, understanding how strong and passionate you are about the things that you believe in.
Mm-hmm. Talking about values and beliefs. So did you feel like your values and beliefs aligned? For the most part?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah, same.
Okay. So then, I mean, some friends' family had red flags. Neither of you had red flags kind of going into the marriage?
Long pause.
None. No flags whatsoever. 100% sure.
Well, I mean, you're fighting for this, and then at some point, does it start to stay there?
The red flags were all over the place. No.
Our hope is that by sharing our mistakes and what we've learned from them, be supporting healthy conversations in our communities. So if you're enjoying listening to this, do us a quick favor, like, comment, and subscribe. It's not only encouraging, but it helps us in tangible ways. Catch you on the next episode, family.